Now, I'll make this video again since they decided to kick me off of Facebook. I had almost 10,000 followers and likes on Facebook, and Facebook just decided to unpublish my page because they don't like me telling the truth. And it may have been ESPN and Paul Feinbaum and whoever knows who's pulling the strings over there at Facebook, because there's actually somebody else talking about college football that makes some damn sense other than them. So that's fine. I'll just go over to YouTube and I'm going to get the message across. And most Texas fans agree with me. Texas has had the same problem since 2013. Coach after coach, year after year. They'll get an offense going, do great. Second half, flatter, fall apart, go down the dumpster. It happened in the Charlie Strong era. It happened in the Tom Herman era. It's happened in the Steve Sarkisian era. Last night, they just went to Iowa State and got totally trounced. I don't even think they tried anymore. I don't even think they're even trying to make a bowl game anymore. So this has something more to do with culture than it has to do with coaching, which Charlie Strong was trying to do and Tom Herman was trying to do. And the reality is it's going to take more than a couple years to get Texas back to where they need to be at. You're probably going to have to give somebody 7, maybe even 8 years to rebuild Texas back. And a lot of boosters and a lot of people with money who pay for the games probably don't want to hear that. And I'll make my Texas Tech video in a little bit on how they fired Cliff Kingsbury. I have an unpopular opinion because I see we live in a dynamic in a world where athletic directors and everybody else makes moves based on what somebody else told them, based on fan reaction, based on media reaction. No, you're supposed to say the heck with the media. This is what makes sense now. When Charlie Strong fired Vance Bedford, it made him look bad because you're taking the confidence out your coaches. And in inevitable, the next person to fire is you. You're supposed to say, no, I'm not going to fire him. I'm going to stick with it. Same thing Tom Herman did with firing the guy that's at Todd Orlando, the guy that's at USC now. The exact same thing happened. He fired him, but just before he was the greatest defensive coordinator ever. You got to let stuff cycle out, and you got to stick with your coaches. So, at the same time as I feel bad for these coaches, I don't, because they'll just fire their top assistants when they know that's overall not the problem. Stop letting media and stop letting other people influence your firings at these big universities. Use your common sense, because it's going to continue to be right back to square one, square one, square one, square one. Texas needs defense. The last great linebacker Texas had was Jordan Hicks. He was from Ohio. Ohio is a phenomenal football state, just like Texas, but they run the ball more. Texas, you go to high school games, and it's the run and shoot offense. Still doesn't make a difference. Texas A&M beat Alabama. They recruit from Texas and all over. So that really doesn't make that big of a difference. The problem that they have at Texas, the University of Texas, Longhorns, it's culture. And it's a new day. It's a new day. Anybody can win. Cincinnati is going to the Big 12 now. They're ranked higher than Texas. Who would ever thought Cincinnati, a basketball school, would be ranked higher than Texas? And quite frankly, right now, Cincinnati would beat Texas. Probably really bad. Notre Dame. So I could go on and on. The point is not to go on and on. And many Texas fans, y'all can make y'all comments. Y'all can leave it. Y'all can give me examples. But I've talked to many of them. And even the ones that followed the page, it's had and even people in Big 12, just other fan bases, they've had the same problem, coach after coach. Get an identity. If you're going to run and shoot like they did versus Texas Tech and run the scoreboard up, then that's what you got to do. You got to run the scoreboard up, and then the fourth quarter, you got to just run the ball and make sure you keep a 4-touchdown lead. You got to say, all right, defense is my second best. If you're going to run the ball and control the clock, like what Charlie Strong tried to do, sometimes Herman did it. Herman was kind of all over the place. I see why UT fans got upset with him, because they didn't understand his play calling and some of the stuff he did. But yeah, to make a long story short, They got to get an identity, and they got to stick with it, and they got to roll with it. Hiring and firing coaches is not going to get that done. Sit down with a coach, say this is your identity, this is what you're going to run with. I don't care what the fan base says, I don't care what the press says, this is what you run with. You got 4 to 5 years to get this thing back to 11 to 12 wins every year and then get into the playoff, and that's how we rolling. We pay a lot of money, we got to get it going. I'll leave it with this. Last night, somebody wrote on Twitter, Iowa State's budget, $90 million, the whole athletic department. Texas, their budget, $200 million. Money can't buy wins. Money can't buy effort. Money can't buy culture. That's something that's got to be set in stone. For Texas to get that much money, the culture was already put there by the great coaches that came before, from the 70s all the way up to Mac Brown's era. So at some point, the whole overall identity of the University of Texas football has to change, and they got to run with it, and they got to move forward. And they can't just fire Steve Sarkisian after 3 or 4 years. They can't fire this defensive coordinator after 2 years. They got to stick with it, and they got to gut that thing out to overall revamp the program. You guys let me know what you think. Anybody who follow me on Facebook, Big 12 Nation, hey, this is where we at. I'm going through some court things with Facebook. As everybody knows, Facebook is a bunch of jackasses. And that's it, man. We're going to get back to talking college football here on this YouTube page. Peace and love to everybody. Have a great weekend. And we are down to the wire of the season.